This is a country of enormous untapped potential. And as a world traveler, everything I search for can be found here. Mountains, beaches, wildlife, countless cultures, and intriguing histories. Taking the paths lesser known, immersing myself into nature. Learning from human interest stories brings my soul to life. Since my journey began back in 2009, I've traveled all over Pakistan, covering almost every corner. And if one takes the time, this nation reveals itself to be vastly more multidimensional than is usually portrayed in the Western media. Viewing Pakistan through a modern-day geopolitical lens reveals its true colors. It's a culture that's thousands of years old, that reflects all the pain and the passion of the living. It's a true kaleidoscope of civilizations. Over the years, I've covered many topics while highlighting the beautiful and peaceful side of Pakistan we rarely hear about. Yet varied accounts of human suffering inspired me to begin researching extremism more thoroughly. Terrorism and human rights violations are frequently associated with Pakistan, sometimes without just cause. However, in 2009, the National Counterterrorism Authority was formed. NACTA specializes in interfacing between intelligence agencies, particularly as it relates to combating terrorism. World travelers are always concerned about the security situation in any country. So this was a unique opportunity to get perspectives from locals and international experts.
The picture in the media in the West right now does not fit reality at all. I think there's so much positive things going on in Pakistan that should be broadcast more also to the wider world. So I'm very happy to have come here and to learn about all these nuances in this very complex topic.
That was very good, very good experience to know the very multi-dimension of Pakistan, to know the real life of Pakistan people. I really felt the strong commitment and also the long-lasting efforts by the Pakistan Authority for the counterterrorism.
As well as we can to use experience of Pakistan in counter-terrorism activity. So I can think it will be very useful.
But perhaps, and most importantly, for me at least, are the voices of the tribal populations that have endured the most. And these are the ones that I have not heard for myself. The information age has allowed Pakistan's millions of social media users to access the international audience at the click of a button. And some contemporary voices are attempting to merge a new narrative based in part on decades of war and terror. These voices bear testament to the gradual emergence of a new Pakistan, its trials and tribulations, its suffering and successes, and including the controversial matter of missing persons that some are claiming as enforced disappearances that the state should be solely responsible for. Are these online voices an accurate reflection of on-ground realities compared to that of global media?
is the street from where Masood went that day on 30th July 2005, and he never came back.
On the one hand, this online revolution has revealed a struggle between those who praise the state and those who criticize it, especially the military's handling of the tribal belt bordering Afghanistan. But is this criticism based on fact, or is it being manufactured to suit foreign agendas? After the NACTA conference, I heard about a sudden emergence of a movement known as the Pashtun Tahuffuz movement. In some of the very areas, the Army had a series of successful operations. Now, the leaders of this movement claim purposeful human rights violations by the state against members of the local populations in the wake of recent military operations against militant outfits. Specifically, leaders of this movement claim that military operations in the area have resulted in enforced disappearances of members of the Pashtun community, installation of discriminatory checkpoints in the area, installation of landmines by the Army, and absolutely no efforts of rehabilitation by the state. Is there any truth to these claims? Or is this the latest phase of fifth-generation warfare that is at the heart of the greater game in this region? Attempts to connect with the leadership proved difficult, so I did extensive research and prepared to visit the war-torn regions myself. Over the past several years, the security situation has greatly improved. Yet while some areas are now peaceful and calm, this was not always the case. And we are not talking about the more metropolitan cities of Lahore or Islamabad or Karachi. This is Waziristan.
او د کور والو به هم چې کوم فیملی وې هم هغې به دا امید نه و چې واپس به دا ژوندي موږ ته پورته راشي داسې حالات و په دې نه هم نور څه زه وایم چې که زه ټول حالات درته وښایم شپږ کتابونه به ډک شي دا داستان یې به پوره نه شي بشي.
This elder's painful memories include watching homes and hospitals, schools, livelihoods being destroyed. He tells me his stories could fill 60 books. So to try and understand the many regional tensions, we must examine the root cause. Hena Jilani is a lawyer and internationally recognized specialist in human and constitutional rights. She is also co-founder of the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan.
The government does not grant any kind of independent assessment. It is very difficult to assess or verify any claims on either side, either the claims of violations or the denial of violations, so we cannot say what has occurred.
Ms. Jilani, would you say that there is any credible evidence that points to the purposeful human rights violations under the Geneva Convention by the state and its agencies?
If you ask me whether anybody has credible evidence of that, the question is not of credible evidence at this time. There are credible accounts, and the volume of claims itself make those accounts credible. These accounts have to be verified, and that is where the whole question of evidence will emerge.
Creating a narrative of human rights violations without verification of the claims is a slippery slope. How narratives are woven and presented in the mainstream media can have a massive impact on cultures, faiths, nations, the resulting impacts can be positive, such as an increase in tourism or investment, or they can be devastating, like a contagion. And while the on-ground scenario may be considered post-conflict, the online battle space rages on. Clashing ideologies, like a wound, will fester if covered over and left untreated. One must pierce through the veil of contradictions to better understand the realities of conflict. Can we, as outsiders looking in, understand the cause, identify those responsible for the conflicts and those who are genuinely working towards a solution? What, if anything, can the international community do? It can be difficult to understand Pakistan, even more so the complex political movements that arise partly as a result of decades of war. And in the Western media, we tend to automatically favor the little guy, accusing the bad guy, which is often big corporate or military. And this is especially true in the movies and courtrooms. Depending on the accusations, some are even considered guilty until proven innocent, instead of the other way around. The same seems to be the case of some unverified claims against the Pakistani state.
सबसे पहले मसूद जो मेरे शोहर के हवाले से उन्होंने मुझे यकीन दिलाया है कि वो ज़रूर ढूंढेंगे। कुछ ऐसे मुजाहरे जिसमें कि वो झंडे को, पाकिस्तान के झंडे को लाना पसंद नहीं करते, और उन्होंने मुझसे मेरा झंडा जो है पाकिस्तान का झंडा जो वो मेरे से ले लिया, तो मैं इसकी मजम्मत करती हूँ। इस तरह की मैं किसी भी तहरीक का हिस्सा बनना नहीं चाहती।
The journey to the heart of the matter is arduous, and attempts to get all sides' perspectives have been challenging. Even though PTM made claims of wanting international investigations, our team found it difficult to connect with PTM leadership, both online and in person. Why would such an organization shy away from independent questioning? Are they hiding something? Or are they merely interested in creating a narrative against the state, as opposed to addressing the issues on the ground? And while it was not easy accessing the remote tribal areas in question, once we arrived, the tribal people expressed very strong opinions about their needs. And while some are basic needs typical of remote tribal life, others continue to evolve.
सर पहले तो इस तरह था ना कि हालात ठीक नहीं थे, दहशतगर्दी जो भी है वो तो, लेकिन अभी जो आप लोग जो आए हुए हैं, हम अभी तसल्ली हो रही है कि इंशाल्लाह अभी आप भी हमारे साथ मदद करेंगे। फ़ौज की वजह से जो हालात थे अभी वो पहले तो बहुत ख़राब थे, अभी तो ठीक है। आप खुद समझते हैं कि आप भी हमारे साथ बैठे हुए तो हालात ठीक है ना।
After years of war and a series of army operations, a temporary displaced persons camp, also known as a TDP camp, remains home for the displaced Pashtun, many from Afghanistan. Thousands of people currently reside here due to ongoing conflict in their tribal regions. The Pakistan Army has managed this camp for years and has recently turned over management to provincial authorities. This is but one example of the Army's withdrawal from the region. In many ways, the Army has been the unacknowledged de facto development agent, and its active engagement in capacitating local governments so they can manage with better facilities than they had before. This sentiment resonates with the local population.
Total individuals are living more than 10,000 and 2,041 families are living here.
And how much longer do you anticipate these families living here?
As the area cleared, we are planning to repatriate these people to their own villages.
Where are these families from originally?
Most of the families are laying across the border with Afghanistan.
Approximately 10 to 15% of the region is still not cleared by the military. But why? Off camera, authorities reveal that Afghanistan's government has refused to cooperate and has further rejected the return of their own displaced people. Meeting these women, these families, was upsetting for me. The living conditions here are not easy. Even though the tours our team received showed basic needs of food, housing, hygiene, educational and work opportunities, primarily owing to the Army's development initiatives.
Munga dasalo kala kegi. Wadi khpal kor takhwar sukwai chi lar shu. Dalta der masal di kana. Garmi der zyat ai kana. Honora der zyat masail di.
The full picture for me, though, remains unclear. According to authorities, a nation-led regional pursuit of peace plan is well underway, including a multi-layered fencing following the entirety of the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Of the total 822 kilometers of border planned to be fenced, almost 600 kilometers has been completed by the state of Pakistan. Additionally, of the total 443 defensive forts planned along this very border, 215 have already been built.
Most of the area which is crossable, which is more critical, sensitive from our point of view, from Afghans, our brothers' point of view, where the control is lax from their side, is going to be completely fenced.
However, peace remains an elusive idea unless there is cooperation from both sides of the Pakistan-Afghanistan border.
We have clearly stated that without the agreement of the government of Afghanistan, any unilateral action taken by the Pakistani side along the Durand line is going to be ineffective, impractical, and impossible.
Imtiaz Gul is an author, security analyst, and internationally recognized for his expertise in Afghanistan and Pakistan's tribal districts.
Pakistan has declared peace in Afghanistan as its strategic depth, unlike the strategic depth notion of the past years. And I think Pakistan's future prospects, trade, peace also is very much attached to peace in Afghanistan. So I think it was the constitutional political vacuum that basically allowed all these non-state actors to emerge and consolidate and entrench themselves in those regions. In the past years, of course, it was partially also the connivance of the state institutions, but I don't think this is the case anymore, and that's why things in the former FATA regions are moving in the right direction.
All wars entail violence and the dilution of the human rights paradigm. This is a lesson the locals are well aware of, given the 2-decade-long war on terror being waged across the border in Afghanistan. And the most difficult task after a drawdown is to rebuild, not just the infrastructure, but entire lives have to be rebuilt. It is important to keep in mind that Pakistan is the only country which, since 9/11, has fought and is winning its own internal war against terror. And that too, at the incalculable cost of losing over 70,000 lives. However, the conflict in this region is real, and it needs special attention from the state before another generation is lost to the mindless menace of violence. Is there any truth to claims of purposeful human rights violations? Or has this movement been hijacked by political and regional interests? What interests do forces from across the border have in PTM's activities? Does this movement wish to assist in a peaceful end to conflict Or is it opening a new battlefront?
PTM, although stands for some legitimate grievances of the Pashtuns in the former tribal areas, former FATA areas, but the problem with PTM is that it is trying to conflict the problems of former FATA regions with the problems, if at all, of mainstream Pashtuns of Pakistan, and that's why it has not got the resonance that it should.
Sarup Ijaz is an internationally recognized civil rights lawyer and the Pakistan representative for Human Rights Watch. Mr. Ijaz, can a state do more to protect the rights of its people? And more specifically, is the army purposefully harming its people?
I don't think that the Pakistan state or the Pakistan government would gain anything from purposefully doing anything like that. I think that would serve no purpose. No political benefit is to be gained out of that. However, a lot of this becomes political, a lot of this becomes beyond a constitutional or a human rights issue. And that, as I said, I don't have any direct knowledge of the claims made by PTM in that sense. Often how these choices are made for any group or even for mainstream political parties is driven by political considerations, by creating, appealing to a wider audience, and maybe not necessarily having the resolution of these cases or claims as an exclusive goal. I don't think it's an exclusively a human rights thing. I think part of it is politics. I'm sure there is a larger political context, which is complicated, which I don't want to go into. What the Pakistani state can do is to focus on the claims made and to allow for due process, for transparency, and those claims would either stand or fall on their own merit. And if somebody is making those claims which are false, for example, sometimes the best way of dealing with it is, sunlight is the best disinfectant to that.
While there is evidence to support some claims from all sides in this debate, the manner in which some of the movement's members are going about their defense of human rights is, at best, questionable. Social media campaigns seem tailored especially for audiences who either automatically assume the state is completely guilty or want to think the same, much like in the movies. This movement's leaders stated they welcomed investigation into their claims, yet they were unresponsive to our team. They claim there's no development, yet some of the very buildings they were protesting from were built by the army. They claim that all missing persons are the fault of the state, yet some of the missing persons have re-emerged under questionable circumstances. This movement claims the military is intentionally placing landmines. However, our investigation revealed that the Army is working to remove the landmines, some of which were planted by the Soviets during the 1980s invasion. Specifically, 52 teams of Army personnel are working to clear mines from over 214 square kilometers of vast, rocky terrain. More than 45% of this area has already been painstakingly cleared, and approximately 20,000 landmines have been removed. Some have now begun to question the motives and the international linkages of PTM. And as a result, the popularity and support of PTM seems to be declining with each passing day. This waning support was also demonstrated in the 2018 general elections, when only 2 PTM members were elected to the National Assembly. From the constituencies of NA50, which is South Waziristan, with a little over 23,530 votes, and from NA48, North Waziristan, with 16,396 votes. These votes represent only 3.4% of South Waziristan and 2.98% of North Waziristan populations, respectively. The timing of the fencing along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border, this movement's emergence, and interacting with Afghan leadership, along with reports of Indian funding some of PTM's leadership, at the very least requires further investigation. An entire generation have grown up knowing nothing but conflict. Will all stakeholders come together for the betterment of the people? Or will the sound of conflict continue to echo for generations to come? It is important to mention that this is the first time in thousands of years free and fair elections have been held. It is also the first time women's voices and votes have been counted towards governance of the region. These elections included female candidates, which gave me hope for women's rights in the region.
ये बहुत बड़ा फायदा होगा कि अवामी नुमाइंदों के पास इख्तियार आ जाएगा। पहले जब पॉलिटिकल जन के साथ इख्तियार होते थे, जो कि हमारे अवामी नुमाइंदे नहीं होते थे, वो हमारी किस्मतों का फैसला करते थे। अब अवामी नुमाइंदे होंगे, हमारे लिए वो काम करेंगे, तरक्कियाती काम होंगे, तो ये बहुत खुश आइंद है।
This democratic process, carried out in a peaceful manner, is a critical component of the Pakistan Army's clear, hold, build, transfer process, merging and mainstreaming the tribal people with the rest of Pakistan. The tribal people voted for many independent candidates, reflecting the transition to civilian control of administrative authority. This inclusive model of civilian democracy counters opposing narratives that the military maintains complete control of the region. The tribal people have spoken, placing their faith in their new representatives, justly advocating for their rights and further development in the region. This is a constantly evolving narrative, and many questions still remain from all sides. Join us as we continue our journey to find the truth.